Good evening and welcome to another EBC and Friends podcast. This evening, we're here with myself, Ramon McKenzie, as Vice Principal,
John Brand, Principal of EBC.
and we have a current student with us today as our special guest, which is a real treat. And his name is Sebastian Pinn. So I'm going to ask you, Sebastian, if you wouldn't mind, tell us a little bit about you yourself as a person, how you come to be where you are, etc.
Good evening, first of all, to John and Ramon. Thank you so much for having me on your podcast. It's a real honor. How did it come about that I'm sitting here in front of you? I'm born and raised in Germany, and I came to the UK in 1998 because I was going after the big money. I was working in hospitality and needed experience in an English-speaking country. So I came to Manchester. I worked for a big hotel chain, which is not to be named. And I moved on from there to work in five-star luxury hotels, also on the QE2, until I end up in Scotland in 2005. I worked for a big hotel in Perthshire, the rolling hills of Perthshire, and also at the big hotel at Loch Lomond. And I had to there, I had a change of heart, and I changed into social housing to work for not for the rich and famous, but for the poor and needy is maybe a little bit much, but anyway, it was more like a social interest, for myself, and that enabled me, to have more time on my hand, and what better things to do than study at Bible college. And I looked, for an option to do that, and I ended up at EBC. And now you interview me here after I've been 2 years into my studies.
Interesting, interesting. So, two questions then, Sebastian. Firstly, can you get us tickets for the QE2? And secondly, tell us about your journey to salvation.
Sure. The first question, unfortunately, I can't do that anymore. But the Q2 is, I think, in the Middle East. So if you're really interested, you can check it out with them.
I'll probably pass on that.
Salvation. I well, I'm not sure. Um, you know, there's probably people in my situation who would all say they have been the king of sinners, but I truly felt this way. I worked in hospitality. We worked long hours, and you work hard, play hard. This worldly saying. And I was quite, let me put it this way, German in my approach, to my work, very direct, straight to the point, and it helped me, to get from promotion to promotion. Um, and with that, come that you have to, be an entertainer, for others. So I was a friend of alcohol, woman, gambling, you name it. I tried it. But what was missing, in my life, and I believe in many people's life, was this inner peace, this happiness, and trying it all and finding out I couldn't find it. I give a chance to a church in Surrey in Bagshot, where I was working for a big hotel chain, and it was a Methodist church, and I'm sure you're familiar with the posters of the Methodist church. They say uh, God allows U-turns, or happy hour Sunday mornings at 9:30. And I was thinking, oh, really? Is that what happens in your church? And But the church was right in the middle between my workplace, my home, and the pub. I used to go, and I said, okay, then I give you guys a chance. So I walked one morning into this church, and there was an American preacher. Don't ask me what he was preaching on, but I was sitting in the pew, and I could just sense, you know, I didn't know it was the Lord at the time, but there was this inner voice saying to me, "Hey, Sebastian, you tried it all your life your way. How about you try it my way?" And to be honest, I never looked back. I made friends in this church. One of them is a pastor, who's still a friend of mine. He's back in America now in a big church in Atlanta, Georgia, where he's a minister. The elders of the church, is particular one gentleman, an elder gentleman. He took me under his wings, and I could speak to him about the Lord at any hour of the day. We spent many hours in the evenings, talking about the Bible. I could ask him any question, and it was so helpful, that somebody said, "Well, if you got questions, come and ask." And from there, I never looked back. That was over 10 years ago, 12 years ago to be precise. But I was already 39, so I was quite well. I wouldn't say old, but well, I wasn't mature either. So. But it certainly made an impact on me, and I pursued God ever since. It's sometimes stronger and sometimes not so strong. But yeah, this is how I got saved, and yeah, I'm very grateful, to the Lord to putting these people in my path and this
Mm,
silly signs of the Methodist Church.
mm. Yeah, great. Thank you for the bit of the background there. That's really interesting. That leads me very neatly into my first question. So you've got saved during this time. You've come up to Scotland. You've started working in the um, hotel trade and the luxury hotels and QE2, so forth. You've done all these things, but then you come all of a sudden, you make this almost sharp turn towards Bible college. So then my question for you is, as someone that wasn't born here, that was born in Germany, ends up, the Lord brings you to Scotland ultimately. Why in particular did you choose EBC? Why study with us?
Yeah, that's a good question, Ramon. As I said, the day where I was turning to the Lord, I pursued the Lord, and it was interesting to learn more about Him. Um, and within 4 years of being a Christian, I was interested in studying. But I just changed from hospitality into social housing. So my salary was a third of what I earned, but I had time on my hands, but not the money, to get education. And we prayed about it as you do. And within 2 weeks, my prayers were answered, or our prayers were answered. And somebody came forward, which I knew from the hotel trade, who said, "I pay your education." But this was not EBC at the time. That was for a course in chaplaincy in an institutional context. So I done that for 2 years, a postgraduate. I enjoyed it, and I went into chaplaincy, sports chaplaincy, where I still was active into recent years. But when I done chaplaincy, Ramon, I felt there's something missing. I was thinking, why would the Lord call you into places and then you're not allowed to evangelize or speak the truth unless you ask? And I felt empty about it. I felt a little bit disillusioned. I said there must be more. And I spoke to the pastor, my American friend, who was preaching on the day where I came to the Lord, and I said, I really want to go to Bible college. And I was looking for a college where I could do part-time, so I could still work in and finance myself, but get this education. And Ramon, I can tell you, it's very difficult. It's very difficult because most colleges, they want you full time, and they want all your money up front. Um, and also, I felt, when I reached out to some of them, you were treated like um, kind of an asset to them. Like well, you want something from us. This is what we can give you. If you can pay it, then you're welcome here. And with EBC, it was slightly different. No, not slightly different. It was very different because when I came up to the website, first of all, me being German, I look at the website and it was a not secure website. So I said, that's already a little bit strange. However, I emailed to this website and said, hey, this is what I'm looking for. And within 24 hours, I got a response back from John Brandt, and he said, "Hey, what you looking for? What you need? Be sure we can help." And when people say loosely, Jesus meets you where you are, but this is really how I felt. Somebody, who asked question about my circumstances, about my history, where I came from, what I'm looking for, where I would like to go, and we had maybe 5, 6 conversation via email. And what I really enjoyed about it, it was quick email. You didn't have to send an email and wait for a week. It was an instant reply. Then we picked up the phone, we spoke on the phone, and I said, "Yeah, that's my place," and I signed up, and that is 2 years ago.
Well, that's brilliant. Thank you for that. It's really, really good. And for those listening, um, you've heard the story now, Sebastian coming from this place of earning loads of money to dropping to a third of what he was earning, which then speaks to character. And I can tell you guys listening, I can give you the inside tip that I know Sebastian personally. He's a friend of mine and he's a man with godly character. So when he's saying, telling you these things, you can be assured that they're true. And we have the pleasure as well, don't we, Sebastian? Once a month, we meet with John. John, being slightly older than us, we get the chance to sit and meet with John, and John counsels us, schools us, helps us with preaching, with all these different aspects of ministry. So these two are personal friends of mine. So it's great to be able to get this information, just friends talking. Thank you. Sebastian, next question then. How did your experience set you up for ministry and how has it influenced your ministry? So right now, where are you at on the ministry trail and how has EBC influenced that journey and influenced the actual ministry you're doing?
Yeah. Truthful, Ramon, when I joined EBC Bible College, I just wanted to learn more about the Lord. I wanted to understand more. Um, and I was thinking, well, I will do the course for 4 years, and I will get some kind of degree, maybe a diploma or maybe a certificate, and then I will see if I would like to go, into ministry and to pastoral ministry. And things change so quickly. I had this in my head, but within, I think, a year, maybe even less than that, I was um, so indulged, in the teachings, of EBC, and the great thing, they're all practitioners. They don't give me just dry stuff and books to read, but the teachers, telling me things, out of their own life, and you get inspired by that and intrigued in that, and you want to give the same back, to others. And through John, I learned to know, a church, who offered maybe the possibility, to preach as a trainee pastor, and I jumped on that because there must be God in it. A sinner like myself, running after the money for most of his life, and unfortunately other things, come to the understanding that I'm a sinner, and God grows bigger every lesson I have with EBC. And He teaches me, He cleanses me, and I think it says in Psalm 51, in verse 13, it says, "Then I will teach your transgressors, your ways." And this is how I felt. I thought, it was bursting out of me. I have to share what I learn here with others, and I wanted to preach. So at the moment, right now, I preach occasionally in 4 different churches, um, and the courses of homiletics and hermeneutics helped immensely, and they must work because these churches invite me back in. So it's great. What's next? I I would love to go into full-time ministry if God lets me, or part-time if that's the way. And Yeah, I'm at the moment doing this split between secular full-time work and preaching and still learning, every day. Yeah.
Story of many ministers as they go into full-time ministry. Let's plug you, Sebastian. So, folks, if there's anyone listening around Scotland that needs someone to fill in on a Sunday morning, we've had Sebastian in church. Remember, guys, German guy, every T crossed, every I dotted, very good at what he does. In fact, so much so, my church have been on at me a few times now. When is Sebastian coming back? So let that be an
There you go.
encouragement for you, Sebastian. And if anyone's
Oh,
listening that
bless.
needs someone, he's the guy. He'll do a
Mm.
good job for you. Now, John, did
Mm.
you do you want to ask something? Do you want to add anything?
Yeah, I had a question I hadn't thought until what you just spoke, Sebastian. There, um, you made the point that what you're still doing now is you're managing to work, but also taking time out to study
Mm.
because that's the flexible approach of EBC. Um, and that's great here because I think many of our students say if EBC didn't exist in the way it does, I wouldn't be able to study. But that's quite demanding, isn't it? To sort of walk in those two worlds in a sense. Your challenging job and responsibilities, and then switching off and into study and time out for that. How do you manage to juggle that?
That's an interesting question, John. And I have to admit, um, sometimes better than others, because it is demanding to work in the secular world and then switch to study time on 1 or 2 days a week and in the evenings. However, this said, as you just mentioned there, John, if EBC wouldn't exist, I would not be a student in a Bible college, and it would be my greatest loss, not to learn, more, about the Lord, not learning more how great, the God is we serve. And I think therefore, if there must be many students like myself, we would then not share what we learned to others. So there would be, it would be almost like a void,
Mhm.
where things would get lost because we could not study because we are not as privileged, to be able to go to full-time college or university, etc.
Sure.
As well, the approach is really helpful that we can like almost like pay as you go.
Mhm.
That helps a lot. Um, and this said, you know, John Ramon, you know yourself. If you want an easy life, then switch off the podcast. Change the channel. It's not easy, but it's rewarding. It's wholesome, it's inspiring, and once you taste it, you don't want to do anything else.
How does learning on Zoom work? 'Because that's a whole different dynamic from what most folk are used to, although more and more people are doing it. And so, how is that? I mean, that's the only way you've done it because when you came to EBC, we weren't doing in class. We already were not doing in class. How have you found that element of it?
Um, that's right. Everything is on Zoom, and I have to admit, at the beginning, you will remember. You might remember when I emailed you said, "Oh, do we meet?" In like sometimes, and you said, "No, everything is moved on Zoom after the COVID times." Um, you get used to it, and you adapt. Your learning. That's no problem. But what I like to say is even so, it seems everything is on Zoom and you don't see the people in person. It is incredible, the last 2 years, how many people, I was exposed to,
Mm.
not just, around here in Scotland and maybe Edinburgh, but also to people in England, to people in Africa, to people in America. And also, it's like, almost, and I don't want to sound cheesy, but like a family. And
Mhm.
I made so many contacts. I met past students, who helped me. I met them in person, who helped me to, understand what Bible college is all about, and they helped me, to put me, or direct my way. So it is not, that you're just sitting in front of a screen. It's real people
Mm.
for real life situation, for real life circumstances in the times we live in. So yeah,
Mm.
um,
Yeah.
everything is on Zoom, but it doesn't cause me any issues.
Mm. Seriously, I was just thinking just very recently that there are times I almost forget we're on Zoom in the sense of I mean, obviously I've met you many times now, but I mean, some of the students regular I've never met in the flesh. But I think we've made Zoom work so we feel we know one another, and there are genuine bonds that exist. And I think in that sense, the Lord's been good to us and helped us to, as you say, you've made friendships with people despite being on Zoom for classes. But just one more question for if Ramon's got another one. You talked about how your study has helped you in terms of equipping you for ministry, preparing you for ministry, and so how is it how has it helped you in your walk with the Lord? How has that changed, developed? Because one thing we're always on about EBC is it's not about information and learning primarily, though that's necessary. It's about spiritual transformation, becoming more like the Savior. Because the more like the Savior you are, the more useful we are to Him. Can you share just briefly, from a testimony point of view, how that has been impacted by your studies?
I have to say, John, from day one, the classes, the teachers, the other students started the transformation straight away, in my life. Um, I was at the church for 10 years, and I think they're God-loving people, but the word was not preached. God, or Jesus was not raised every Sunday. The word was not preached every Sunday. And when I got the teaching from EBC, that became the center point, of my understanding, of it strengthened my faith that everything is about Jesus Christ, and it transformed my life in a way where I understand, how in a loving way how little I am, how small I am, and how huge, magnificent God is. And every week I learn more about that, and it's
Mm-hmm.
it's a wonderful thing. So it is a transformation, and it feels like it never finishes. Or I hope it never will finish, because it's just a wonderful thing to learn more,
Yeah,
week in, week out.
that's great to hear. That's brilliant. Yeah,
Great
yeah,
to hear.
thanks.
So do you has your time studying then with to follow on kind of from what John said there, your time that so far that you've been at EBC, has it awakened the hunger not just to study what you're being told and shown to study, but to read around, to go and read more broadly and widely? Because I must say, having spent time with you in your presence, Sebastian, you do have a good knowledge further than what we will learn in the college.
Yeah. And Ramon, talking about reading further, I have to say, with the EBC family, now my the books I owe is probably more than the local library, because people put me in contact with people who give books away, and I said yes and amen to all of them. And my wife doesn't keep up with buying bookshelves for us. So yeah, absolutely. You get hungry more and more. You wish you could soak it all up, but hey, we've got eternity to do so. But it certainly, steers your heart to learn more, to read more books, to learn about, the church fathers in the past, the reformers. It's just incredible, what is available to you. And yeah, I love to soak in it. I wish I would have more time, but wouldn't we all, to do more.
Yeah, so true. So then what would you say if I ask you this one final question then, what would you say to this? So as a student who might want to come to EBC, as you did yourself, firstly, what was it particularly that was it anything in particular that you wanted to study, or what's your favorite thing, should I say, that you've studied with EBC?
Um, Ramon, there's honestly too many things to mention, and every time, I start the course and I'm thinking, oh, that sounds interesting. They all become instantly like a favorite for the time, the flavor of the module, or whatever you want to call it. What really got me, Ramon, and I can just recommend it for everyone who is intrigued to study. It's a real thing. It's not something you learn and then put it away. It's something it consumes you. It becomes part of you. You want to apply it, and yeah, it leads you from one height to another. I mean, at the moment, I do the module about prayer, for example. It's incredible, educating and important and helpful, because not sure about you, but I struggle in my prayer life. I don't do enough, and getting these golden nuggets fed to you, year on year, or module to module, it's yeah, incredibly helpful.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it's good. It's good what you're saying there, that you brought that up, because you've got your classes that are very much biblically based, teaching through the book of Genesis or the book of Acts, and you've got homiletics. You've got all these different subjects that are core, that are needed for people going to ministry. Then you've also got, for the folks that just want to learn more about their spiritual life, about more about the Bible, but not necessarily in a ministerial sense. We do run things like prayer courses, prayer classes that give you
Mm.
application and how to apply these things into your life. So you may not want to be a pastor if you're listening to this, but something like that may catch your attention. Oh, I'd like to know more about prayer. I'd like to sit with, and the guy that's lecturing through it at the moment, Sandy Roger, great lecturer, very wise man. Having
Yes.
sat and listened to him speak about prayer, absolutely wonderful lecturer.
Mhm.
So then, Sebastian, let's finish on this. So to anyone listening out there, to any um, possible student, potential student, for example, who wants to study, let's say, prayer as a practical application, or wants to study as yourself to go into the ministry, what would you specifically say to them?
Um, the great thing with EBC, I experienced it many times, that John invites people just into any course and say, "Hey, come, sign in, listen in, get a taste of it." And I would recommend anyone who's interested to make or have this opportunity and taste what EBC's flavor is all about and what it's like. I met so many who then continued to just do it for their own purposes, for their own interest. Some others, they want to pursue now going into ministry themselves. But the opportunity, just to have a taster, have a flavor, is available for everyone. And I can just say before, if somebody is serious about God and tastes EBC, they will not turn away. They will stay.
That's a great and high note to end on, combining two things you said there. Come and taste, come and have a taster, come and see what we do, and come and experience it. But add it to something you said earlier that I'll bring back up again. I'm paraphrasing you here, but basically, your lecturers, I've just mentioned Sandy Rogers talking about prayer. They don't just teach you something, they model it for you. And I think
Mm.
that's a huge bonus, rather than sitting and listen. You can go and sit in academic classes and learn a lot as well. But here you've got the application, people modeling that ministry for you, and not just speaking it, but they're living it out, so you can watch that as a student. And I do think that's extremely important. And without having prompted you to say that, you've just really told us that as it is.
Mhm.
So great note to finish on. Sebastian, thank you so much. It's been a real honor to interview you this evening, and it's an honor to have you as a friend. It really is, and as a student at the college. So thank
Mhm.
you very much, Sebastian.